The sky burned before anyone understood what was happening. At first it was a sound, low and metallic like thunder grinding against steel. Birds scattered from rooftops, their cries drowned beneath the strange hum. Then came the shadow. People craned their necks on busy streets, squinting at the horizon as the sunlight dimmed, not from clouds, but from something vast blotting out the heavens. It wasn't a single ship. It was a fleet. Great leviathans of metal descended in silence, their hulls black as oil, reflecting streaks of firelight as they cut through the atmosphere. Children pointed. Parents froze. Soldiers scrambled for orders that never arrived. And then the sky opened. A beam of molten light carved through the first city. Towers crumbled like paper, bridges melted in seconds, and asphalt boiled beneath fleeing crowds. Screams carried farther than the thunder. Humanity's tallest monuments, symbols of progress, collapsed into glowing rubble in less than a heartbeat. The invasion had begun. Panic erupted worldwide. Some prayed, some cursed, some simply ran with nowhere to go. From orbit, the invaders unleashed their fire with clinical precision, reducing neighborhoods to ash while leaving others intact, as though deciding which parts of Earth would be dissected. Later, one survivor, an old man clutching his grandson's hand, looked up through tears at the descending ships and whispered, "Not gods, demons." The aliens descended. They were not the elegant kind of beings dreamt up in science fiction. They were towering insectoid monstrosities with obsidian carapaces and too many eyes that glowed faintly green. Their claws clicked against broken pavement. As they marched in formation, their movements sharp and deliberate, every step vibrating through the ground. Plasma rifles hissed in their grip, weapons that looked more alive than forged. And as they advanced, they laughed. Not laughter as humans knew it, but a chittering, rasping sound that echoed with contempt. Through universal translators, their message blared, broadcast across every frequency. Flesh bends, flesh breaks, flesh submits. In less than a day, humanity had been brought to its knees. Cities burned, governments fractured, militaries shattered. The aliens spoke of conquest the way butchers speak of carving meat. To them, this was not war. It was harvest. But not everyone was silent. Through static-filled airwaves, as alien ships jammed communication lines, a voice broke through. It was rough, distorted, but undeniably human. Broadcast from some hidden bunker, it reached every radio, every flickering television, every half-working comms tower. This is not the end. The voice was male, hoarse with exhaustion, but it carried fire. You think we are finished because our cities burn? You think flesh is weakness? You forgot something. Flesh is not the cage. It is the kindling. And kindling burns. The transmission cut abruptly, smothered by interference, but the words lingered like sparks in dry brush. Survivors repeated them in whispers, clutching each other in basements, subways, and ruins. Above them, the alien fleet repositioned. Entire continents glowed under their watchful shadows. Their commanders mocked humanity openly, promising enslavement, vivisection, and extinction in turn. But even as cities fell, even as ash replaced skylines, something stirred beneath the rubble. In the smoking ruin of the first city, a firefighter pulled himself free from collapsed concrete, coughing blood. His hands were torn, his lungs burned, but in his eyes lived something the aliens had not measured: rage. He stumbled through firelit streets until he found others: a mother clutching her child, a wounded soldier with one good arm, a boy dragging a crowbar too big for his hands. They stood together, weak, bleeding, trembling, but not broken. High above, an alien officer reported to his fleet commander, voice cold and certain. Resistance minimal. The species is compliant. They are only flesh. And in the ruins below, the firefighter's voice broke the silence, hoarse but steady. Flesh burns. And fire spreads. The others lifted their heads. The words hung in the air like a promise. The aliens thought they had seen the whole of humanity in a single day. They saw fragility. They saw weakness. They saw prey. What they had not seen, what they could never understand, was the fire inside, and soon they would. The galaxy's conquerors looked at Earth and saw only flesh. But they forgot that flesh, when cornered, ignites. Darkness is heavier when it presses against steel bars. The survivors were no longer running. They were herded. Humanity's remnants, men, women, children, were collected into cages as large as stadiums yet small enough to feel suffocating. The alien invaders moved with mechanical precision, their exoskeletal limbs clicking on concrete. To them, this was not war. It was study, analysis, and preparation for eventual dissection. The cages reeked of sweat, smoke, and fear. The aliens prowled the perimeter, tall insectoid forms silhouetted against flickering floodlights. Each glance they cast made it clear, humans were merely flesh to examine, nothing more. Inside, whispers filled the air, low and trembling. People huddled together, trying to shield children from the glow of alien eyes. Every movement, every cough, every shiver was recorded, catalogued, and mocked. One alien scientist leaned over a human body lying on the cold metal floor, examining the torn skin and broken bones from yesterday's bombardment. Its voice rasped through the translator, fragile, weak, no spark, no internal combustion, only meat. The words were meant to demoralize. They worked on some. Others clenched fists until knuckles cracked, heartbeats pounding louder than the alien hum above. Among them, a small girl of no more than 10 traced letters into the cage floor with a charred stick. "We are not done." No one noticed at first. Then others began to see. They read it in trembling voices and repeated it, a chant of stubborn persistence. It was a whisper that grew louder with every repetition. Even the aliens noticed. One hissed at another. "What is this? A signal of resistance?" "Ridiculous, they are flesh. They cannot plan. They cannot fight." But the child's chant spread like wildfire. Soon, tiny acts of defiance appeared. A man kicked a cage wall when the aliens weren't looking. A mother whispered coded instructions to her children, teaching them which guards never watched the same angle twice. Outside, the alien patrols maintained strict order. Towers bristled with plasma cannons. Drones hovered like insects, scanning, probing, calculating. Any human attempting escape was swiftly terminated, usually before the word attempt could even be thought. But the fear had a hidden purpose. It sharpened resolve. In the deepest corner of the largest cage, a young soldier stared at the ceiling, eyes catching the reflection of the alien lights on broken glass. He whispered to the people around him, "They think they can break us because we are soft. They don't understand that what they see as weakness is our crucible, and crucibles make fire." The crowd trembled, some out of fear, some with newfound determination. The aliens, in their arrogance, continued experiments. They dissected bodies, taking notes of anatomy, muscle density, nerve reactions. Every specimen confirmed their assumption. Humanity was nothing more than fragile meat. Yet despite being stripped of weapons, homes, and hope, the prisoners refused to scream. Instead, they whispered strategies, marked escape routes, and measured patrol patterns in silence. At night, the largest cage glowed dimly with the soft light of fires made in secret, small and controlled, hidden from alien eyes. Families huddled near the warmth, the smell of burning wood mixing with the stench of steel and blood. And there, in the corner, the small girl continued her scratches. "Flesh is fire." The alien commander passed by, mistaking the scratches for idle marks. "Insignificant," it rasped, and moved on. But in that cage, sparks had been planted. Whispers spread into chants. Footsteps in rhythm. Hearts beat like drums. Fear was still there, yes? But it had been transformed into focus. Humanity's captives were learning something the aliens could never measure: adaptability, cunning, and fire that burns from within, not from metal or plasma. And somewhere in the shadows, the young soldier smiled. "They see only flesh," he said quietly, but they have not seen what lies beneath. Above, the alien fleet loomed, confident, calculating. They did not yet realize that cages are not prisons for fire. They are incubators, and fire, once kindled, cannot be extinguished. The aliens thought humanity could be caged, studied, and broken, but even flesh, when filled with defiance and cunning, carries fire inside that no steel or plasma can suppress. Fire does not wait for permission. In the ruins of a city once gleaming with human pride, small pockets of survivors moved like shadows among the rubble. Smoke curled through the broken streets, carrying the stench of burned concrete, ash, and death. At first, the aliens thought nothing of them. After all, flesh bends, flesh breaks, flesh submits. But humans are not predictable. A dozen rebels crouched in the hollow shell of a collapsed library. Their leader, a woman with ash-streaked hair and a missing arm, held a crude map of patrol routes. Every street, every ruined building, every shattered car was marked with careful precision. They were learning, studying the invaders in the same way humans had been studied in cages. "This way," she whispered. "Quiet. The patrol rotates at 65-second intervals." Outside, alien drones hummed, scanning for movement. The survivors froze, pressed against walls, barely daring to breathe. Above them, a warship hovered, casting a shadow that swallowed the square below. The light reflected in their eyes, but they didn't flinch, because fire survives in the dark. Man carrying a stolen plasma rifle nodded to the leader. His hand shook, but he smiled. "We hit the Eastern Patrol?" "Yes." "Swift. Ghosts. Strike and vanish," she replied. And so they moved, silent as smoke, darting through alleyways and shattered doorways. One misstep, a clink of metal, could mean death. And death came with alien precision. A patrol had already vaporized 2 humans the night before for less. They reached the patrol's route. 2 aliens clicking in synchronization passed. The rebels held their breaths. The air was thick with tension, every heartbeat echoing like a drum. Then, in a flash of controlled motion, the plasma rifle flared. One alien fell, the other spun, confused, and another shot silenced it. The rebels didn't celebrate. They vanished, melting back into the ruins before the next patrol arrived. Their movements were a ghostly rhythm, invisible and fleeting. Hours later, in a hidden bunker beneath a collapsed bridge, transmissions flickered to life. A coded signal passed through hacked alien comms, reaching scattered survivors across the city. "They see only flesh. Show them fire." The phrase caught fire in whispers, passed from mouth to mouth, from shadow to shadow. Humans who had believed themselves helpless suddenly understood something vital. They were not prey. They were the storm. In one corner, a child mimicked the chants she had heard from the cages. "Flesh is fire." Her voice trembled, but it carried. Others joined, forming a low hum that filled the walls of the hidden bunker. The aliens noticed changes. Patrols found corpses with alien weapons twisted and broken, barricades assembled in impossible ways, and messages carved in rubble. "We are not done." One alien officer reported nervously, "They are learning, they are organizing, but they are only flesh." And that was their mistake. Humans, even in shadows, had fire. They adapted faster than the aliens anticipated. They scavenged, hacked, and weaponized the debris around them. Every ruined vehicle, every scorched building became a potential advantage. The invaders were powerful, yes, but they were predictable. By nightfall, the city glowed in hidden flames. Fires burned in abandoned towers and cellars, signaling human activity. Smoke spiraled into the sky, thick and black, hiding their numbers but revealing their will. It was a subtle rebellion, barely noticeable to the fleet above, but to those below it was everything. A young soldier patched a wound on his arm, watching the flames outside. "They think we're weak," he muttered, voice low, almost to himself. "They see only flesh. But fire. Fire isn't measured in muscle." The leader nodded, scanning patrol routes. "Soon," she whispered. "We won't need to hide. They'll remember the first time they saw humans fight. And somewhere in the shadows, the child carved another word into concrete. Burn. The aliens hovered above, confident, calculating, unaware that every act of survival was teaching humans more than any school ever could. They measured flesh. They did not measure determination. They calculated strength. They did not calculate fire. And fire, once lit, spreads faster than fear. Humans learned that even in shadows, survival is more than endurance, it is adaptation. Flesh may bend, but fire within burns brighter than any oppression. The first shot was a whisper of death. It came from nowhere, a thin flare of stolen plasma cutting through the smoke of a ruined street. Alien patrols froze mid-step as one of their own fell, disintegrating into ash before anyone could react. Humans had struck first, and the world shuddered beneath the impact. For the first time, the aliens noticed something they had not anticipated: precision. Humans were not panicked prey. They were hunters. The ambush was small, almost laughably modest. A half-dozen rebels, armed with scavenged rifles and crudely made explosives, moved in and out of shadows with surgical efficiency. Every motion was calculated, every step rehearsed in the ruins where firelight danced against broken walls. A woman with ash-streaked hair, the leader of the cell, whispered orders. Aim for joints. Disable first. Let fear finish the rest. The patrol froze as bullets sizzled through the night. The aliens, used to commanding flesh that broke under pressure, faltered. One soldier tried to charge but stumbled over rubble. Another misfired in panic. By the time the reinforcements arrived, the rebels had vanished into the smoke, leaving only scorched metal and terror behind. In the shadows, humans who had watched whispered among themselves. They can bleed. They can fall. But we— The phrase died as a young soldier finished. We rise again. Word spread quickly. What had been whispers in cages became strategy in the streets. Humans learned rapidly, turning debris into traps, using broken vehicles for cover, and hurling fire where the aliens least expected it. Each skirmish taught them more about the enemy's patterns, weaknesses, and arrogance. The aliens, in contrast, were growing uneasy. Reports filtered up to commanders. Small human groups were coordinating attacks. Patrols were disappearing. Weapons were vanishing. And worst of all, the humans were learning fast, too fast. A captured alien soldier, trembling in chains, hissed one word. They adapt. Like fire. In the ruins of a library, the rebels celebrated briefly. It was a quiet, flickering celebration, their faces illuminated by small, controlled fires. A young girl, the same one who had etched messages in cages, smiled as she whispered, "Flesh is fire." The words rolled over the group like a mantra, binding them together. Above, the alien fleet maintained its dominance, unaware that their calculations were wrong. They measured strength in bodies, numbers, and weapons, but never in will. They had studied the flesh, but the fire beneath it remained invisible, untouchable, and lethal in its own way. The humans struck again at dawn. This time they sabotaged an alien supply line, turning weapons meant to subdue them into explosions that crippled machinery. Every victory was small, yet monumental. The aliens began to whisper among themselves, fear creeping into their cliques, and hisses. They are only flesh. Why do they strike like this? The young soldier cleaned his rifle and looked at the flames burning through the remains of a fallen patrol vehicle. They think we are weak, he muttered. They think we break easily. But fire cannot be measured. It cannot be contained. It spreads. For the first time, the alien commanders felt doubt, and doubt is a dangerous thing when you are accustomed to fear. The leader of the rebels moved through the rubble, silent and unseen. Her team followed, moving like smoke through the city, striking and vanishing. Each ambush was another lesson, each sabotage another spark. The city itself became their ally, hiding them, protecting them, and shaping them into something more than survivors. Night fell, and the fires of rebellion glowed faintly against the ruins. In one corner, the child etched one last word into stone. Burn. It was a promise. The aliens watched, still blind to the growing inferno beneath their feet. They saw only flesh. They did not see courage. They did not see strategy. They did not see fire. And that fire was rising. Even the smallest spark can ignite a wildfire. Humanity's strength lies not in its bodies but in its ability to adapt, learn, and burn brighter under oppression. The first flame of war has been lit, and the galaxy will feel it. The city was no longer silent. It thrummed with fire beneath the rubble. Humanity's whispers had grown into roars, echoing through broken streets and scorched buildings. Survivors who once trembled now moved with purpose, turning ruin into weaponry, fear into precision. The aliens had believed themselves gods. They had studied humanity like fragile specimens, dismissing them as soft flesh, easy to crush, easy to control. But fire cannot be measured, and the fire inside humanity was now burning brighter than ever. In the East District, a squad of human fighters worked quickly, dismantling alien drones and converting them into makeshift traps. Broken plasma rifles were rigged with explosives, twisted into silent ambushes. Every destroyed patrol, every sabotaged supply line, added to a growing network of chaos. The humans were no longer scattered sparks. They were wildfire. A commander among them, a veteran, soldier with a scar running from temple to jaw, whispered, eyes scanning rooftops. We are everywhere. They cannot predict us. They cannot stop us. Above, alien patrols faltered. Reports came from officers straining at comm frequencies. The humans had learned the patterns, adapted to the weapons, and even turned their own technology against them. The aliens' confidence was cracking. One alien general, a massive exoskeletal brute with eyes like molten emerald, hissed into the translator. Impossible. They are only flesh. How do they strike so often? A captured alien soldier, trembling, added, They fight differently. They are not afraid. They adapt. They burn. Every corner of the ruined city now saw the signs of rebellion. Fires smoldered in abandoned offices, flares lit hidden tunnels, and smoke spiraled into the sky like banners of defiance. Humans moved silently, coordinated, ghost-like, striking and vanishing before the aliens could respond. The rules of war, the invaders understood, no longer applied. In one alley, a small resistance team waited. A young girl, the same one who had etched messages in cages, held a flare above her head. Its glow illuminated the battered faces of the group as she whispered, "Flesh is fire." The words were no longer a chant. They were a mantra, a warning, and a declaration. The ambush began. Alien soldiers turned a corner, only to fall into a net of explosives and hacked drones. Plasma rifles were fired back at their owners. The humans moved like shadows, every strike calculated, every retreat clean. From the rooftops, the scarred veteran surveyed the chaos. "This is only the beginning," he muttered. "They saw us as prey. They will learn we are predators." The aliens could not understand. They measured strength in bodies and steel in weapons, but humans measured strength in fire, cunning, and the will to survive. Every patrol that fell, every supply line destroyed, every street liberated was a testament to the inferno inside humanity that could not be crushed. In a nearby plaza, survivors dismantled alien technology and turned it into traps. A drone meant to scan the city was instead rigged to explode when it detected motion. A plasma cannon intended to annihilate streets was hacked to fire at its own fleet. Each small victory fueled the next. The wildfire spread. At night, the city glowed with secret flames. Smoke spiraled like banners rising over crumbling skyscrapers. Humans moved among them, faces blackened with ash, eyes glinting with determination. And somewhere in the ruins, the young girl etched another word into stone. Burn. The alien general cursed, realizing the scale of the uprising. "We underestimated them," he hissed. "The flesh. It burns too brightly." But the humans did not wait for recognition. They kept moving, striking, disappearing. Every burned-out block, every sabotaged vehicle, every captured weapon fed the growing legend. Humanity was no longer prey. Humanity was wildfire, and wildfire cannot be tamed. Above the city, the alien fleet hovered, confident, calculating. They did not yet realize that the flames below were not just destruction. They were the birth of a force the galaxy would never forget. When the sparks of resistance unite, they become a wildfire. Humanity's strength is not in the flesh alone. It is in its creativity, resilience, and unyielding fire. The galaxy is learning that fire cannot be crushed by steel. The city was no longer just alive, it was burning, not in the way the aliens had intended. They thought the fires of destruction they rained upon humanity would bring submission, fear, obedience. They were wrong. Humanity's fires burned from within. They were everywhere, unseen yet unstoppable. Every street, every ruined building, every scorched square had become a battlefield, and humanity had learned how to fight on every front. On a shattered rooftop, the scarred veteran of the HumAlien Resistance scanned the city through a pair of cracked binoculars. He saw movement below. Rebels darting through alleys, setting traps, igniting small controlled explosions that forced alien patrols into chaos. The humans had learned to turn every ruin into a weapon. They think they can control us, he muttered. They think they can break flesh. They don't understand fire. Below, in the heart of the city, humans struck with lethal precision. A convoy of alien walkers moved through the main avenue, unaware that the road beneath them had been rigged with explosives. With a flash and a roar, the pavement erupted, tossing metal beasts into the air. Aliens screamed, plasma guns misfiring, in panic. The humans melted back into the shadows, invisible ghosts in the smoke and flames. High above, the alien commanders began to doubt themselves. Reports were fragmented, frantic, patrols destroyed. Weapons turned against their owners. Communications hacked. Impossible, hissed one general. They are only flesh. Why do they strike like this? But the humans were more than flesh. A young girl, the one who had first whispered flesh is fire in a cage, now led a squad through the smoldering ruins. Her hands trembled as she held a makeshift flare, but her eyes burned with purpose. She was a symbol. Defiance etched into every movement, every word, every act. Move, she whispered. Ghosts, shadows, fire. The squad moved as one, striking from above, below, and behind. Aliens fell in flames, their armor pierced by stolen plasma, their formations shattered by traps that humans had learned to craft in the ruins. Every attack was a lesson in ingenuity. Every retreat a demonstration of patience and cunning. The scarred veteran watched as humans climbed destroyed vehicles, using them as cover to flank alien forces. They see us as prey, he muttered again, but we are the inferno they cannot extinguish. Smoke curled into the sky, masking human movement and making it impossible for alien sensors to distinguish friend from foe. Fires from makeshift torches and burning rubble turned the night into a battlefield of shadows. To the invaders, it looked chaotic. To humans, it was strategy. In one abandoned plaza, the young girl etched yet another word into a broken wall. Burn. The word was a promise, a signal, a rallying cry. Every survivor who saw it knew that humanity's fight had only just begun, and that the flames within them were stronger than any weapon the aliens could bring. The alien general cursed, his voice a hiss of disbelief. They adapt, they strategize, they burn. Flesh and burns too brightly. But humans were not waiting for recognition. They pressed their advantage, striking at supply lines, capturing alien weapons, and igniting panic among the invaders. Every victory, no matter how small, was amplified by ingenuity and determination. Every corner of the city became a crucible for resistance. And somewhere in the ruins, the scarred veteran smiled. He knew the truth the aliens could not see. Fire is not measured in strength or numbers. It lives in courage and resilience and the will to rise when all seems lost. Humanity had become that fire, and it could not be contained. The night was alive with flames, whispers, and shadows. Humanity had transformed the ashes of their world into an inferno of defiance. The aliens had underestimated the fire within, flesh, and they would soon learn the cost of that mistake. Fire cannot be extinguished when it lives within courage and resilience. Humanity turns ashes into infernos, proving that even the weakest flesh can become unstoppable when forged by determination. The hunters had become the hunted. What the aliens thought were mere flesh and fear now had teeth, claws, and fire. Humanity had grown bold. Small victories in ruined streets had become coordinated strikes across the city. Supply lines collapsed. Patrols vanished without a trace, and tonight humanity would turn the aliens' own power against them. Deep beneath a collapsed war museum, human engineers worked feverishly. Plasma cannons, drones, and alien vehicles lay in twisted heaps around them, stripped and rewired. Sparks flew. Metal screamed under wrenches and welders, and a low hum of anticipation filled the tunnels. This was no mere sabotage, it was revolution. "Are you sure this will work?" asked a young soldier, wiping sweat from his brow. The veteran engineer smirked, eyes glowing in the torchlight. "We've studied their tech longer than they've studied us. Every sensor, every weapon, every weakness, we know them. Tonight the ash becomes fire. Tonight their fleet burns." Above ground, the alien fleet maintained its cold, calculating patrols, unaware that its strength was being inverted beneath its gaze. They had seen humans fight, adapt, and survive, but they had never imagined humans could use alien fire to destroy alien fire. The operation began at midnight. Rebels moved in perfect coordination, striking at power nodes and weapon caches. Explosions erupted in the shadows, drawing alien reinforcements away from their patrols. From hidden tunnels and scorched rooftops, humans emerged like phantoms, guiding their stolen weapons into place. High in the sky, a massive alien warship pulsed with energy, a leviathan of steel and plasma. The humans' plan was audacious. Hijack its power core and redirect it toward the fleet. One wrong move meant annihilation, but there was no hesitation. The fire inside humanity refused to be contained. The engineer gave the signal. The team surged forward, plasma cannons flared, drones zipped through broken streets, and explosive charges tore open access ports. The alien warship convulsed as human hands wrested control, rewiring its systems with a combination of desperation and brilliance. Above the city, the fleet continued its patrol, unaware. Then the first flashes erupted. A warship fired upon its own formation. Plasma beams tore through the alien hulls with uncanny precision. Ships spun out of control, colliding and exploding into suns of fire. Alien screams echoed through the city as chaos spread across the fleet. From the rubble, humans cheered silently, faces blackened with ash, eyes alight with triumph. They had turned their chains into weapons, their cages into crucibles. What had been ash had become fire. Human ingenuity made flesh. The alien general's voice crackled over the fleet. "Impossible. They are only flesh. How can flesh destroy steel?" But humanity was more than flesh. They were fire, intelligence, strategy, and will, fused into one unstoppable force. In the streets below, the scarred veteran surveyed the inferno. Smoke spiraled like banners above crumbling skyscrapers punctuated by explosions from hijacked warships. The young girl, once a child in a cage, now led a squad of fighters, her voice rising above the chaos. "Flesh is fire. Burn with us." Alien forces faltered, panic spreading faster than their weapons could respond. Communication lines were jammed, formations broke, and command structures collapsed. The galaxy's mightiest invaders were falling, one ship at a time, to a species they had deemed fragile and inconsequential. By dawn, the skyline was transformed. Fires still burned, but they were not the fires of destruction. They were the flames of defiance, of victory, of humanity reclaiming its world. Alien ships that had once hovered like predators now drifted broken, scarred, and retreating. The young girl etched another word into a war-torn wall. "We rise." The scarred veteran nodded, wiping ash from his face. Humanity had turned the tables. They had used the enemy's own weapons, the enemy's own technology to burn their oppressors. The galaxy would remember this day. Above, the alien fleet limped away defeated, their arrogance shattered. Humanity stood among the ruins, flesh battered and torn, but fire unextinguished. They had reminded the galaxy that fire lives in the will in the mind and in the courage to rise when crushed. Flesh alone may seem weak, but combined with ingenuity and courage, it can turn ash into inferno. Humanity learned that survival is not enough. Fire must be wielded, and the galaxy will never underestimate it again. The smoke cleared, revealing a world scarred but unbroken. Where once towering cities had crumbled under alien fire, only ruins remained, blackened and jagged against the morning light. Streets were littered with debris, metal, and ash. But among it all, humanity stood. Not in fear, not in defeat, but in defiance. The alien fleet, once confident, now limped away across the sky. Ships scorched, hulls ruptured, systems malfunctioning, their commanders stunned. They had underestimated flesh, believing it weak, unworthy of resistance. And they had been wrong. From the ruins of a shattered plaza, the young girl, the one who had first whispered, "Flesh is fire," climbed onto a broken wall, raising a hand to the sky. Her voice, small but unyielding, echoed through the streets. "We are not prey. We are fire." The survivors cheered, voices carrying over the ashes, mixing with the roar of distant fires and the rumble of crumpled alien machinery. They were battered, wounded, and exhausted, but their eyes burned brighter than any plasma weapon, brighter than the alien sun overhead. Across the city, human engineers and fighters dismantled the last of the alien war machines, turning debris into barricades and salvage into weapons. Every act of survival became a testament to ingenuity and courage. Humanity had taken its chains and made them hammers. It had taken its ashes and made a forge. A veteran soldier stepped forward, scarred and stooped from battle, surveying the horizon. He muttered to those around him, voice low and steady. They saw only flesh, but flesh made fire, and fire cannot be contained. In the sky above, the alien commanders attempted to regroup. Their communication lines were fractured, their formation broken. They had expected prey, easy to subdue, easy to harvest. Instead, they had found a species that adapted faster, fought harder, and burned brighter than any logic or technology could predict. Below, humanity moved with purpose. Children who had once hidden in cages now carried supplies, guided by adults who had once fled in terror. Engineers tinkered with salvaged tech, turning alien weapons into tools of defense and warning. Every street had its sentinels, every ruin, a potential fortress. Humanity had learned that fire is not merely destruction, it is vision, strategy, and unity. The young girl, standing atop the wall, etched one last word into the cracked stone beneath her feet. Remember. It was a warning, a testament, a promise. The alien general, watching the retreating fleet from a damaged ship, hissed in disbelief. They are not flesh. They are fire made flesh. And it was true. The ruins of Earth were not silent. They hummed, with the energy of survivors who had turned despair into determination, weakness into strategy, and flesh into fire. Every human who had lived through the bombardments, the cages, the ambushes, and the nights of fear had emerged stronger. They were proof that the galaxy's mightiest invaders had misjudged the essence of humanity. The scarred veteran approached, the young girl placing a hand on her shoulder. "You see, little one," he said, voice trembling with exhaustion and pride. "Fire does not wait for permission. It lives in those who refuse to bow. And today we have shown the galaxy what it means to burn." Smoke still drifted from distant ruins. Fires smoldered. The city was broken, but it was alive. Humanity had survived. Humanity had fought. Humanity had reminded the galaxy why flesh cannot be measured by strength alone. Above, alien ships disappeared, beyond the horizon, bearing the lesson of fire and flesh to worlds across the stars. They would speak of humanity with caution, awe, and fear, for the species they once mocked had proven that courage, ingenuity, and an unquenchable will are far more dangerous than any weapon. The survivors gathered in the main plaza, faces blackened by soot, hands calloused by battle, eyes bright with determination. They raised their voices together. We are flesh. We are fire. Remember that before you come again. The wind carried their voices across the ruins, over the city, and into the heavens. Humanity had endured, humanity had fought, and humanity had won, not through superior strength but through fire, the indomitable fire within. For the first time, Earth's survivors stood not as prey or victim, but as a beacon of defiance, a symbol of what it means to be human in a galaxy that had forgotten. They were flesh, but fire lived within them, and the galaxy would never forget. Moral humanity's strength is not in muscle or weapons alone, it is in the fire within. When flesh carries courage, resilience, and ingenuity, even the mightiest, Invader is humbled. Fire made flesh endures, inspires, and changes the course of the galaxy.